Hello, this is Larry at larryricker.com, and in this video I'm going to replace a compressor inside of a Honda CRV 2007. The car slowly got hot, and at this point I've recharged the refrigerant. It didn't get any cooler, and I've taken it to a shop and had them evacuate out all of the Freon, the I think it's R431A, out of the car, which is one of the modern refrigerants on the 2007. That refrigerant, at least according to the EPA website, doesn't break down the ozone layer, but I'm going to take every precaution. It will burn you. It will give you frostbite, and so it's generally dangerous stuff. So I'm going to wear eye protection and gloves and get on with it. If you like this video, click on the like button below, and you can check out my apps on the Apple App Store. They are Project Organizer, Project Organizer Pro, Job Hunt, Job Hunt Pro, Class Organizer, Class Organizer Pro, Opportunity Organizer, and Opportunity Organizer Pro. Okay, so what are we going to need to get started here? We've got, first, the safety equipment. We've got a mask. I got a full face mask that's full facial. That'll make sure that I don't get any Freon or R431A in my eyes, which is very important to me. And here's some gloves. That'll make sure that I don't get frostbite. If I should get any R431 on my hands or arms or whatever. I'm going to need some socket wrenches, and I've got my Carlisle ratchets, and got some Craftsman sockets. Generally going to concentrate around the 10 millimeter and the 12 millimeter. At least that's what I've read and researched. So I'm probably going to go with my small Craftsman set here, and it's got both the 10 millimeter and the 12 millimeter. It's not a really super duty set, super strong, because it's just got this little ratchet. But if I need more strength, I'll go with the Carlisle, and that'll be just fine. And if I got some tight spaces, I'm probably going to use this flexible ratchet screwdriver thing on the socket to try to get those loose. Some additional tools will be this breaker bar. I'm going to probably put a 14 millimeter socket on here, and that'll be used to pull on the belt tensioner to loosen up the belt, so I can pull the serpentine belt off. Screwdriver might come in handy, long screwdriver. And next we'll go over some of the parts we've purchased. Okay, so what we got here is a compressor. I purchased this from AutoZone. It was about $164 plus a $30 core charge, so that comes in around $206. I've got a silica kit, which is supposed to be replaced. It contains an agent that removes moisture from the system, which is very important. You got to keep all the moisture out of your air conditioning system. And also have some oil, which is the PAG 46 refrigerant oil with ice. Now this particular compressor has a green tag, which means it doesn't have all the oil in it needs. So I'm going to need to measure out, well, it comes with 3 ounces of oil. I got to get it up to 4.6, so I have to add 1.6 ounces of that PAG oil to this through the intake ports as I'm assembling it. And I've also, and I'm not sure if I'm going to use this, but this is an expansion valve for this particular vehicle. The guy that evacuated the system for me said that somebody might have used stop leak in there, and therefore I might have to replace the expansion valve. So that's another thing. But that's going to be a major undertaking, because that's inside the dashboard, deep down inside. So I prefer not to do that if I can get away with it. Also, for measuring out that PAG oil, I was going to get a measuring cup and then throw it away, and that was about $4. So I was looking for a somewhat cheaper solution here, and I found that if you go to Walgreens, they have these syringes for measuring out medicine. I stopped by the desk and asked for one of those, and probably going to use that to measure out the PAG oil. Let's see, 5 milliliters. I'm going to confirm this, how many milliliters are in an ounce, and measure that out accordingly. So I did Google that, and it turns out that 1.6 ounces is about 47 milliliters. So I'll probably put about 5 of these full syringes in there to fill up the PAG oil. Okay, so it's about 10:06 a.m. and I wasted a little time sweeping up the garage, but we got the jack laying there flat, and then it's up against this support point, which is in the front right corner of the car. And then of course I've got my chucks around the tires so that the tires don't slide. And then up here in the front of the vehicle, I've got a support underneath the toe connection to support the vehicle so it doesn't fall on me. So the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to go and pull out these clips right here, here, and then underneath the vehicle. They're going to be relatively easy. I don't know if I can do it on video, but you basically reach down inside of these, pull up the center part here. Let's see if I can do one. And it's going to be hard to do. You pull up the center part and then you just pop the thing out. I'm going to have 2 of those on each side. One's missing here. And then underneath the vehicle, I'm going to have them dispersed. There's 4 of them along the bottom here. I have to pull those out so I can get to the compressor. So I'll do that offline. And come. As you pull out those push pins, and there's one up here in the corner, and then they're all along here, along the front of the car. And as you pull them out, you can eventually get this whole bottom part to drop out. And I'm got a couple more to do, just the one back there, and then probably the 2 in the wheel well, and maybe 1 or 2 more, I don't know. So you get a little pile of those, but the compressor's up here, so that exposes the compressor, so we can work on that. And there's the push pins over there sitting on the stool. Okay, so the next step is going to be to loosen this belt, and I got a Serpentine belt here, and it's kind of hard to see, of course, as all Serpentine belts are. It's down in here and it kind of goes down. So what I did was I just took a pizza box laying here and sketched out a diagram of basically how the belt went. You can see this belt on top here, and then it goes down to here, and then goes around there, comes out about here, goes around, down around here, up here, and then around here and up there. It continues the loop. Now one of these is a tensioner, and it pushes on the belt to keep it tight. You got to figure out which one of these is. Put the 14 millimeter on there and crank it, loosen it, and then the belt will pop off, and then I'll start working on the next step. Also, in order to make a little more room, some of the other videos pulled this power steering fluid connector off here. Looks like it's just clipped right here, so I'm just going to pull back on this clip and pull that up out of there. Okay, after I got the power steering mechanism, pump, reservoir out of the way, now I got a clear view of the Serpentine belt and the different pulleys involved, and I'm looking at the tensioner, I believe that's in here. So I'm going to be cranking on that to try to loosen this belt and get it off. Okay, I ran down about a half hour from here. My local AutoZone didn't have this tool available. They have a tool loaner program. It's this tool's called the Serpentine belt tool. and I'm going to use that tool to get this serpentine belt off. If you want to save yourself some time, I'd get that before you get started. Didn't realize I needed it, but I'm going to give it a go. Okay, this serpentine belt, I was warned by the AutoZone deal personnel that this one was extremely difficult, and it proved to be so. So what you need to do, well, the only thing I found to work was to take this one piece that came with the toolkit and put it sideways inside of my 14mm wrench. Slide the 14mm wrench over the socket on the tensioner, and then slide that over the tensioner bolt, and then crank up on that very hard, and basically pull up on this bar here, a lot of tension, and then with the other hand pull the belt to the side, and I was able to loosen the tensioner that way. It's probably unconventional, and it's probably extremely dangerous, so whatever works for you. It's very difficult. As you can see here, I've got my support underneath the front towing kit for the Honda CRV, and I've removed the tire to get more visibility, and here's my compressor. I've sprayed WD-40 on the 2 bottom bolts and up here on the 2 top bolts. I'm just waiting for that WD-40 to take effect, then I'll unscrew those 2 top bolts and the bottom 2 bolts and pull out that compressor, as well as disconnect the electrical and disconnect the 10mm connectors on the 2 in and out on that compressor. Okay, so this compressor is finally ready to come out. The 12mm bolts on the 4 bolts were not that difficult. A little difficult. I used a breaker bar like this, and it has a, actually I didn't use that one. Let me see here. I used this breaker bar here with a rotating head, and that just cocked it around enough to get it in there. The thing that gave me the most difficulty here is this electrical clip, and that is right here. Very difficult to get loose. Secret for that one is pinch it right at the top. So right up here at the top, you got to get your hand up in there, and you got to squeeze on it, the top part, and then pull up on it at the same time. And then it took me half hour to get that thing loose, but it finally released. So now I'm ready to pull this thing out through this little tiny hole. It actually, I think it will fit. It started to come out before, and then I'll pop the new one in. Got my new compressor over here, so I'm gonna put some oil in that and then start putting that up in there. This part is very important you do quickly, because you don't want a lot of moisture getting into the system. So you said about 2.5 hours. I think I've already wasted an hour at least since I popped the 2 compressor ends off. So I got to get this back up in there quick. So I'm gonna put the 1.5 or 1.6 ounces of oil in there, and then reassemble this. Inside the compressor, that's the cap. Put the oil in. It's sealed. Screwdriver to open it. Like I said, I'm going to put 5 of these in to equal 1.6 ounces. So fill up 1 syringe. Drop that in. We'll do 5 of these. 10 ounces each. Okay, that's not a little bit unscientific. Okay. 3. 10 ounces, 10 millimeters, or milliliters, sorry. That'll be 3, trying to hurry. 4, 4, and then 5. And less than that. Okay. Put 5 in there. Okay, so we got our oil in there. Now I'll reseal my compressor. This is garbage now. Put it in that little packet. I don't know how dangerous this oil is, or if it isn't at all, but not taking any chances. Okay. We've got a couple of O-rings that we also need to lubricate with this oil. Let me get this sealed. That'll bring it up to the spec, which is 4.6 ounces of oil. It came from the manufacturer with 3 ounces of oil, so I had to add 1.6 ounces of oil. Based on my earlier calibrations, that was about 50 milliliters. I think that's right. Somebody want to check that again. I'll put this all together. Okay, I did this operation for both O-rings, but I don't even know if this is going to come out. But so here's the other O-ring. I paired it up. Dip it into the oil. Get it covered with oil. Then I'm going to come up here and slip it over this end here. And when you're good at it, it looks really good. Okay. Okay, so both O-rings are replaced. Now I'll start putting parts together. Got one of these O-rings is bigger than the other. So this one's the larger one, and the one on the lower connector is the smaller one. Okay, so I have the new compressor back up in there, and if you do enjoy living vicariously through others, I must say I made a mistake, and hopefully you can avoid this one when you do it. I didn't hook up the wire, the electrical wire, first thing when I put it back up in there, and then I tightened it back down, and when I tightened it back down, the wire was underneath or on top of the compressor, and I couldn't pull it back out. So I had to loosen up all 4 bolts again, pull the compressor back out, get the wire loose, hook up the wire, and then put the 4 bolts back in. So that was a little bit of extra time. As I mentioned earlier, I did get that special tool from the AutoZone, and that's the Serpentine belt tool. But that tool didn't really work fabulously for me, but what it did was it came with this one part, which was I guess a 3/4 inch, or half inch extension. And what I was able to do with it was take my 14 millimeter box wrench with the open end socket, stick the end of that into the 1/2 inch, and pull up on this, hook this into the Serpentine belt, pull up on this and here, and with that mechanism I was able to pull the Serpentine tensioner and release the tension so I could get the belt off. Now I'm going to go try to put the new belt back in here, and as you can see, it's I've taken the power steering container and hog tied it up to the lift for the hood or the bonnet, and as a result I had a little more space to work in here, and I'm going to keep that hog tied up until I get this serpentine belt in. But I put in a replacement serpentine belt, and hopefully that goes well. Here's my old serpentine belt on the left and my new replacement on the right. Since I had the serpentine belt out, I'm going to replace. I didn't completely pull it out, but I might as well just go at it. And so I'm going to start here under the wheel well, the right front wheel well, and I'm going to start threading that serpentine belt back up. There's the new compressor. You can see the pulley right there, and start stringing this up and around and zigzag it all through there in the same pattern, and then use the tensioner to tighten it up. Now I'm starting on day 2 of this job, the air conditioning job, and I'll leave this part into the video mostly just to serve as a warning to others. I got wrapped up in bolting up the compressor into the bottom of the car, and I forgot to go back and tighten the bolts that are on the connectors for the inlet and the outlet. And as a result, today they did a vacuum test on this car, and it leaked. So there's only 2 places that I open the system up. Both are on the compressor. The one is the bolt on the bottom, and the other one's the bolt on the top. And the bolt on the top is really hard to get to because you have to reach up from underneath the car and get to the bolt, which is very hard to get to. And you have to turn it in a very tiny space, one turn at a time, like one notch at a time on the bolt, rotating it until it's tight. I said, I'm tired of this, and I went on to bolting up some other bolts, and then got distracted with a couple other things I had to do, like putting on a serpentine belt, and forgot about those bolts. So I'm going to go back up. I'm going to rip the panel out of the bottom of the car, and I got it already jacked up, and I'm going to go tighten those bolts. So don't forget that. Okay, these are the 2 bolts I forgot to tighten. So the first bolt, which I think I did tighten actually, is located right here, and that's right on the lower end. That's the low pressure side, and then the high pressure one is right up in here where this pipe comes up and then wraps around and comes down on the top. There's a bolt right up on top of here, and it's very tight space, and you have to get your wrench up in there and tighten that thing down until it won't move. And now make sure you don't have any leaks. If you do have one of these little tiny ratchet sets, you can get it up in there, I found. I wasn't sure yesterday, but if that was possible. Just make sure you set it to righty-tighty before you go and put it up in there, because it's upside down and backwards. So turning it to the right is loosening it, turning it to the left is tightening it. So as it moves to the right now, it's tightening. As it moves to the left, it's loosening. So everything's opposite from this perspective. And also make sure you're wearing like a mask or glasses or goggles or something while you're working in this position, because something could fall and hit you in the face. I have a full face mask shield on right now, so that's why my voice is muffled. That's tightening right up. So when we take this to the doctor, to the shop next, it should not leak. And that was a lot of turns to get it tight.